place in 14th century France, and it's about paper making and how paper took over from parchment and the forces that were against it, notably the church. So I'm going to read to you now from chapter 3. My protagonist is Ada. She is the daughter of a paper maker. She is a neat. Part 1, Spring 1320, chapter 3. A clap of thunder startled Ada awake. Bolting upright on her pallet of hay, she pushed aside the oilcloth flap covering the square outlook by her bed. Storm clouds darkened on the pre-dawn sky. She huddled in her blanket and breathed against the furious thump of her heart. Closing her eyes, she tried to drowse to the rumble of her father's snore from the loft. But it was no use. She couldn't fall back asleep. By habit, she reached across the pallet for her sister Poncia to ask her to sing a tune, a love song, or a hymn from church. Sometimes after a nightmare, her sister would hold Ada's hand and hum an old lullaby of their mother's. But Poncia, only 6 months ago, had married and moved away. Ada slid out of her pallet and pulled a woolen dress on over her shift, her bare toes scrunching against the cold winter ground. Thin ice shards had formed in the basin of rainwater that stood outside the larder where she slept. She picked them out and washed her face, then stole into the hearth room. Dried rushes and alder leaves crunched against her feet, their sweet woody fragrance rising up. The fire had dwindled low under the cook pot. Ada fanned the embers, then opened the shutters over the outlook and rolled up the oilcloth flap to let in some air. The rain had started again. Little wonder, it had rained every day for the past 4 months in Narbonne. Each morning, the downpour arrived with the salty breeze of the Marne off the Mediterranean. Normally, the dry gusts of the evening Serre would chase the rain away, but not these days. These days, the rain was constant. The inquisitors are circling Narbonne like hawks, her father had told her with a dark look, while the priests claim the rain is all the work of the devil. He snorted. Pure nonsense. But the church had added extra masses at Matin and Prime just to accommodate all the newfound piety. Ada fed the fire sticks of wood. Orange shadows flickered over the sparsely furnished room. In one corner, a table and 2 benches stood alongside a shelf that held a pair of empty wine flagons and a green wax tablet with a wooden stylus. 2 sackcloth claws hung on the hooks nailed into the door. Fanning away the acrid smoke that rose from the burning pine kindling, Ada tiptoed across the corridor that led to her father's studio. A familiar sense of anticipation pricked her spine. This is where she and her father made paper. Reams of blank sheets to be filled with words from all manner of people, rich lords, learned priests, even her. The workshop was centered around a large vat holding the linen mixture that made up the paper pulp. Fashioned from an old wine barrel, the vat sat on a plinth over a low flyer, and next to a drainage gully cut into the rough brick floor. Ada crossed the channel by way of a wooden duckboard and lit a torch. The flame's reflection danced on the vat's black liquid surface. Today her father would beat the macerated linen into a pulp. When he was done, the actual papermaking would begin. Ada dropped the torch in a sconce over a row of smaller barrels where the degrading cloth that would go into the next batch of pulp was kept. The wet linen rags, balled up inside, were already molding and fermenting. She breathed in, picking out nuances in the ripe odor, the sweetness and the acidic undertone that lingered in her nostrils. Another week and it'd be ready. She sat down at the corner desk. Its surface was cluttered with a miscellaneous ruck. Quills, blades, brushes, old bits of paper, older pieces of parchment, pots of ink and sand, and an empty flagon of wine. In the middle sat a large book that her father, Martin, had rented from the stationer. He rented books as often as he could from Tomas, even when the men had no work to discuss. A shopkeeper with strong ties to the church and the Parchmenters Guild, Tomas was loath to speak in public about Martin's paper. But for a few discreet coins, he would approach the papermaker with some side work. Cheap men need cheap copies, Tomas would say, sniffing as he handed her father a thick, wrapped package containing a book made of parchment. It was almost always a text for a university, though occasionally a colorful romance or collection of verse made an appearance. Martin would make sheets of paper in an identical size and number to the parchmented work and copy the text in his careful hand. A binder would sew the work up into gatherings of 8 pages, then stitch the gatherings together and bind them with clothboard covers. The resulting book would be far less grand than a parchmented work, with colorful illuminations and a tooled leather cover, and would fetch small coin for all the effort. Still, Martin jumped at every chance to copy a parchmented book on paper. "Someday people will flock to us directly, eh, Ada?" he said often. "They will seek us out to have their words captured in a dozen books spread all over Christendom." Ada quelled a shiver of excitement and tried not to dream, as she often did, that the first original book Martin made would be written by her. Surely that was his dream, too. Why else would he go through such effort to bring books home to share with her? She could picture it, a leather-bound volume containing pages and pages of her writing, maybe even decorated with bright illuminations. If Poncia knew of her ambition, she would scoff at them both, asking what kind of woman would want to write books? Few could even read. Poncia might well be right. But what if she wasn't? "The Lord saved you for a reason, my special child," Ada had heard her father mumble once. "If only I knew why." She caressed the dark book on her desk, her fingers trailing over the fat black script on the book's clothboard cover. "Libera composite medicinae," she told her father she'd wanted to make a book of simples and herbal cures for her sister, and this is what he brought. Her sister was ever at a loss to remember which herbs fought melancholy, which soothed distemper, and which chilled the fever. The week after Ada had shared her plan with her father, he had brought her this book on physicking. The volume was due to go back to the stationer's today. She flipped it open. The first page, as usual, bore the book's curse. "He who thieves this book, may he die the death of pain. May he be frizzled in a pan, says the servant of the Lord. Steal not this book, stranger or friend, or fearing the gallows will be your end. And when you die, the Lord will say,